Great. So there we go. We're going to put this at the top. It's always good to have all the stuff. So I'm super excited for today's Monetize Monday. It's going to be phenomenal. I've been working on this for a while. It seems like a few months now. So first and foremost, Bunsen and Beaker, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us. So people are tuning in. I'm Jason. Bunsen and Beaker are the dogs. I tried to get them to talk, Joseline, but I don't know what kind of conversation we'd be able to get across there.
Yes, I know. It'll be very rough. So I know you love your puns. So we have an action-packed session. So first, will you be able to stay with us for the 2 hours, 1 hour? What's your schedule like so that we could plan accordingly?
Yeah, I probably 2 hours might be pushing it, but an hour and a half for sure.
Perfect.
Is that cool?
That is phenomenal, indeed.
Okay.
So, because we've been working on this for a while, so any time is better than no time, as they would say. So, let's get right to this. So, we're going to go through 3 phases. We're going to go through, the genesis, the origin story of this account, what you've been able to bring, how it came about. Then we're going to talk about, your current situation, and then we're going to end it off with the future and see where things are going, what you have planned. You have a lot of things that are cooking, and because you're a science professor, a lot of things are cooking. So there you go.
Only legal.
Only legal stuff for science purposes.
And remember, I am Canadian, so the whole plot line of Breaking Bad would be over probably in a couple days. They'd be like, "Sir, you have cancer. Treatment starts next week."
and you're fully covered. Indeed. So why don't we start with the origin story? Bring us back to when it all started. I see that you started your account on October of 2017. Was it always the intention of first, I guess it was just Bunsen, and then Beaker was an addition. But how did this all come about? Did you start it right then? Did you plan it out? Like, what was the mentality when you first started this account?
So yeah, Bunsen. We got Bunsen about 6 months after our family dog died of cancer. So if anybody who has had a pet or a dog, like they're a huge part of their life. So we got Bunsen, and he was this little Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. And that's the story we tell people, is he kind of like came and filled the hole in our heart that had been created from the death of our family dog. And all we really wanted to do was, and I didn't really understand Twitter. I was not on Twitter at all. I was not, the only social media I had was Facebook, and that was for me personally. As we just started to share pictures of Bunsen as a puppy. That's it. He had a sciencey name, and I'm a chemistry teacher, and my wife teaches middle school science, so we're a big science family. And it never intended to do anything more than just share little pictures of Bunsen. If you've ever seen Bernese Mountain Dog puppies, they're something else. They're pretty adorable.
So when did you make the transition into, hey, let's help teach science with Bunsen?
So it was a slow start to that. There'd be a cute picture of Bunsen, and I'd be like, instead of just saying, "Hi, I'm cute," because I didn't really know what to do with Twitter. Right? And there are some dog accounts that just do that, right? They're just like a little cute caption, and there's a dog.
Right.
We Rate Dogs is one of the biggest accounts on Twitter, and that's literally all they do, right? There's just a little cute caption, and there's your dog. Very witty, very cute. But what I found resonated was when I was like, hey, there's a dog, and then I talked about some kind of like chemical pathway of how the dog's tongue tastes different things in a little like concise explanation. And that really resonated with people or they'd be commenting on what other scientists would say, but it'd be through like a dog's perspective, like, oh, that's really interesting. You found that exoplanet. Is there bacon on it? Right? So I got more practice at that, and it became maybe a little better and a little more witty as we went along.
So it was essentially just an experiment. As you just highlighted, you were new to Twitter, only had like Facebook, and you're like, what's going on here? Was the account Rate My Dog, was that already in existence when you started to do your thing? Did you know about them?
No, I didn't know anything about anything on Twitter. I'd have to go back and check our first tweets. And I made the account, and Instagram was our main account for the longest time because I understood that a little bit better. It was just pictures.
Right.
The whole, like, there's a big learning curve to Twitter if you've never ever been on Twitter. Like, I get everything, and I'm like, you don't understand what's going on. Like, you just have to like do a little thing, and you're good to go. But yeah, and then I want to say I didn't really use Bunsen's account for probably the first 6 to 8 months, and then it was about when he was 1. I took a picture of him in a lab coat and safety glasses, and actually that was when it really took off. And because before then it was just like hit and miss, hit and miss, hit and miss.
And what compelled you to do that?
Well, so like I'm a high school chemistry teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So he was with me at my classroom, and I'm just gonna tweet out that picture of Bunsen. I've got it saved.
Oh yeah.
Because,
perfect. I love it.
I'm just trying to find it right now. It's in my favorites here. So
yeah, and I'm trying to find your your original tweets as well. So if you have it already bookmarked,
we tweet quite a bit because that's how it goes, I guess.
Okay, yes.
So I'm just gonna tweet this. If you give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, no worries.
So I'll get okay. So Bunsen was at my classroom, and I was training him. Like, he was in dog obedience. Bernese Mountain Dogs are really smart. They're not like on the same level as a border collie. But what makes Bernese Mountain Dogs really easy to train is because they like food. So that's a huge deal if you're training a dog. And they also want to make you happy. Like, they feel bad if they've done something wrong. Like, they're really sensitive.
Uh-huh.
So with those two things together, you can train Bernese Mountain Dogs really quickly to do basic obedience. So I was just messing about, and I trained him to wear glasses, and then I trained him to wear my lab coat, and then I put my safety glasses on him, and I was like, oh my goodness, he's freaking adorable.
Oh.
So I took a picture of him, and I'm just going to tweet that picture out right now. So 1 second,
perfect.
And then I'll share it to the nest.
Yeah, because that's one of the questions that I had, which is like, how these dogs are so, Bunsen and Beaker are so calm when you put on the glasses. How are they doing this? They don't get annoyed at this whole thing? And yeah, they're a little bit bigger because they're safety glasses and it's mostly clear and stuff, but they're so well behaved that it was incredible. So it seems like some bacon and some patience, and you got your Bernese Mountain Dog and Golden Retriever wearing some clothes, some lab coats and safety glasses. So there you go. I love it. So look at that first picture. Oh man.
That's the first picture, yeah. So in the nest, that's the first picture. That's the picture that went viral. So that
I put
that, it just was so funny, and I put it on Reddit, and it went to like the front of Reddit. It got like 90,000 likes or something on Reddit. I don't really understand Reddit, but anyways, it did really well on Reddit. And then that did really well on Twitter, and then I was like, oh my goodness, there's something here. I could pretend to be a dog, because there's already other dog accounts that were like, they were pretending to be dogs.
Right.
But I didn't, some of them talking baby speak, and I was like, that kind of grated on my nerves, so I didn't want to do that. I was like, we could be like a serious account that talks about science from a dog's perspective, because then people were wanting to know what we thought about anything related to dog science. And I was like, I don't know, I'm a chemistry guy. So yeah. And then those are just some other pictures of Bunsen as the years went on. And then the last one is of Bunsen and Beaker. One more thing I'll say is Bunsen's big. Like Bernese Mountain Dogs are big dogs. Like they're a giant breed. So Bunsen's about 100 pounds. He's not as big as a Newfie, but he's a giant dog. And the advantage of that is he is big enough to just wear people clothes. So that lab coat is my lab coat that he's wearing. And I'm a big guy. Like I'm 6'3".
Wow.
And their heads are so big, like a melon, that he can wear people glasses, no problem. So that's also helpful with dressing him up.
No, I guess the biggest lesson, if you're just joining us today, is something that I think people that are looking to monetize and are looking to obviously, leverage social media for business purposes is like, oh my goodness, I need to know all these rules and regulations, and I need to know how to do it and everything else. And what we just summarized is that sometimes you just have to go in, use it. You don't know what's going to stick, and don't get too concerned about all the nitty gritty. You're going to figure it out. Just like even now, you're becoming more familiar with Twitter Spaces and how to navigate that and how to speak and all. So you're on any venture, just go through it, and you could either dive in, or you could just slowly enter into the water and kind of wade your way through. But you don't have to have everything figured out at first, which is the essence of this kind of conversation, because he didn't obviously know that this was going to be such a hit. He, science teacher, was, looking to highlight his dog. And also another big point to highlight is find your voice, right? Just because other people are doing it a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that you do it the same way. Find something that you feel comfortable with, because this is going to be essentially how you're going to move forward, right? That's going to, create a level of uniqueness for your brand, which is extremely important. So let's talk about, so Bunsen was there. And then when did Beaker come about? Because it wasn't obviously at the same time. So when did you get Beaker?
Right. So Beaker came when Bunsen was 3. So
Okay.
Bunsen was our dog for 3 years. He's still alive, so
Right.
this is past tense. So
Right.
I posted something this morning that I'll share to the nest. It's it kind of in preparation for this. It's kind of the Bunsen and Beaker story.
Oh, perfect.
And it's kind of a tearjerker because it's dogs and it's super cute. So we kind of felt that Bunsen was not necessarily lonely, but it would be really cool to have another dog for him because he liked playing with other dogs. And we live on a farm in rural Alberta, Canada, right? So it's not like he's a city dog. He lives on farm property. He lives inside the house. He doesn't live outside the house.
Okay.
But, am I cutting out? Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You can keep going. Yeah.
So Beaker came about as a companion for Bunsen, and man, I thought because of their size difference, it was just, we did not know how big Bunsen was until you see him around other dogs and especially the puppy. But he was so gentle with her and loved her so much, and it was super heartwarming. If you watch that video, hopefully you don't cry.
Oh, okay.
In the nest up there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll have that. Actually going to put both of these things into bookmarks. That's another lesson that I would recommend folks to do whenever you're in a Twitter space or just in general on Twitter and you don't have time to go through it. Bookmark it, and it'll save you a lot of grief. And the thing is about when you do bookmark, that the person that you're bookmarking from, they do not know that you're bookmarking. So it's not that you want to hide it or anything, but that's if you have that in mind of like, oh, they're going to find out that I'm bookmarking all this stuff. They don't. So, which is a good thing. So then we have now in between Bunsen meeting Beaks, because you call him Beaks sometimes. Were you developing the Bunsen brand, if you will? Were you like all about like, okay, cool, we got the coat on, we got the jacket, now let's start developing some content all around Bunsen? Is that how that worked, or did you wait till they both came together? Like, what was the story there? How did that evolve?
I didn't even, so I shared, so I'll tell you something really quick that's kind of like funny / but it's related to Monetize Monday. So I shared that we were going to be talking, And a couple of our fans reacted super negatively to that, right? They didn't know that we get money for some of the stuff that we do. And I was
Right.
like, well, we do, if you check how much we tweet, we provide a lot of free content. And
Right.
it was, I didn't know you could make money off of something like this, right?
Right.
And what happened was a bit of luck. My family's we're giant nerds, and my artistic side, like the thing I do as a hobby, is I build these replica costumes for Comic-Cons.
Right.
So I don't know, I'll maybe share one into the nest, but at a Comic-Con we met a cartoonist who draws dogs. And he drew a picture of Bunsen as a cartoon, surrounded by lab equipment. And I showed that to people, and they're like, man, what if you put that on a t-shirt? And I was like, oh my goodness. I think we have the only scientist dogs in the world. And there's other memes out there. I think there's a golden retriever, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, there's a meme of that, but I think we have the only scientist dogs on social media that are like science communicators. And I was like, boy, we could turn this into a bit of a way to make money. And that may sound gross to some people, but I mean, this is now a part-time job for me, running the Bunsen and Beaker empire. So
Right.
Yeah, so it was running into this cartoonist, and he's been our cartoonist now for 3 years. We have all of these adorable cartoons of the dogs doing different things. Yeah, the one you shared up there, that's the vaccinate one. So we have that vaccinate. The Beaker's actually giving Bunsen the COVID shot there. And we have that on T-shirts and face masks and dog bandanas, and it's really popular. So
that's great, because it was actually one of the questions that I had, especially going through all the merchandise that you have on your site, which is like, wow, there's so much merch. I'm just going to highlight some things. And it's like, wow, this is like
the koozies.
Yeah. And then we have the costumes and things. So do you think that without the great animation that it could have taken off the way it did? Or do you think that was like a central part, that you had all these animated drawings to complement the cuteness of the real dogs? What do you think that relationship is there?
Yeah, I am so thankful for our cartoonist. His name is Sam Logan. He's Sam and Fuzzy. Oh, there's my Skyrim costume with Bunsen and Beaker. Yeah, I built them Skyrim costumes. If we hadn't met Sam Logan, I don't think it would have turned out the same way. It's been so lucky that we have him, and he lives in Alberta. He lives in Canada. He's a Canadian guy. Yeah. And he has a corgi, so he draws he's got a whole comic series about his little corgi, which is really cute. And also he's a big nerd too, so he draws people's dogs as superheroes. So it's really easy for him then to draw dogs doing stuff. Like, we have one of my favorite art things he made is Bunsen and Beaker rappelling, like Mission Impossible.
Oh, yes.
Mission Impossible 1.
Yes.
But Beaker's on Bunsen's back, and they're like, spread eagle right by the floor. And instead of reaching for a computer, they're reaching for a stack of waffles with bacon on top.
Yes.
And that is my favorite thing. And it's on T-shirts and stuff. Mission Impossible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
the waffle mountains and with bacon. I have that. I was actually going to also talk to you about that as well, because that stood out for me, because it's like, oh my goodness, did he come up with that concept, or did you come up with that concept?
I came up with that one, and he just knocked it out of the park. Like, I tell him to draw something, and he never says no. It's incredible.
Yeah. So, and we're going to get heavy into it later on, but one of the things that was very keen is that if you go to the e-commerce site, which is a direct link from your profile, you're going to find a plethora of different types of merch, from socks to koozies to stickers to those very 3D animated kind of stickers with that are like multicolor, and we got sweatshirts. And not only that, it's not just one image, like the static image. There's a whole situation, like the Vultures of Paramount, right? That's how it is. Where
the Vultures of Parliament.
You want me to talk about the Vultures? Yeah. Okay,
so is crazy. Is that, do you want, it's a story. Do you want me to get into it?
Yes. And we're going to go through the storytelling. And I think this is a great example of the whole storyline of your brand, but go ahead.
Okay. So actually, I'm just going to tweet this out.
Perfect.
People maybe here. So Vultures, just 1 second here.
Yes.
We talking Vultures of Parliament.
So Beaker got the band together. We'll start off with that. Beaker gets the band together.
Right. So every Friday I do texts from Bunsen. This is where it starts. Where I pretend that Bunsen is texting different people from our family in like a text chain conversation. And then I post 4 of those every Friday. And they range from silly to actually, pretty funny. It just depends on how creative I was that week. And through the storyline of Bunsen and Beaker texting each other, Beaker started a band, a glam 80s band where she's the lead singer, and our next door neighbor's cat plays the electric guitar. My son's albino boa constrictor is the drummer, and then our other next door neighbor has a couple llamas, and one of the llamas' name is Jeb, and he wears a hat. Like they have ears cut out for him, and he wears a little hat.
Oh my gosh.
And so he plays the sax. And I was struggling to come up while I was trying to think of the name of this band. I just went to bandnamegenerators.com and I clicked it twice. And Vultures of Parliament came up, and I was like, "That's perfect." And boy, did that take off! Everybody loved that storyline. And I was like, you know what? I looked into how much money it would cost to commission some musicians to actually write music. And it was within the realm of like, we would pay them and then we'd probably break even on sales of the song. So we have 4 real songs on iTunes. Oh my
goodness.
And Spotify by Vultures of Parliament, like an 80s glam rock band.
And
the songs are really good too. Like my favorite one is Chemistry. It's really, really good.
And if you look
at on my phone right now, if you want.
Oh, that'd be great. And if you look at the actual pinned tweet at the very top, is an image of Beaks there and the band, which is very pink and bluish, which is nice. And it was Dog Rates. You had a conversation with Dog Rates about this, which is kind of very fascinating. So let's step back, because this is kind of like showing people the potential of what you could do. Because now you're talking music, now you're talking all this kind of stuff. Let's step back. So you're starting to create content. You hooked up with this great animator serendipitously, and I think there is this. I don't know. There's this whole thing about like being lucky versus like being prepared. That way you're always lucky, right? It's this concept of luck is like an interesting concept, because if anybody could be lucky if they have the right information, you are already going down the road of creating this kind of empire, this dog empire. So you were attracting people that were going to support you in this mission. And I think, it is lucky, but there is this kind of the universe rewarded you to a certain degree of like, okay, let's take this to another level. Here's someone that you should meet, and you met, and it was great, which is phenomenal. So you met Jason, and you started to do some stuff. You started up the ante. So at what point are you looking at, for example, Patreon? Because you have Patreon. Are you? Because you right. Sure. So when does that happen? When do you start thinking about monetization? Like when does that kind of cross your mind? Because you started off with not knowing about Twitter, to now 96,000. You're like 3.5 3,500 away from 100,000 followers.
Yeah,
so
and we have huge engagement too. Like if you check our likes, retweets, and things like that, like we have some big accounts are big, but they don't get a lot of engagement. Our account is, we get millions and tens of, sometimes close to hundreds of millions of impressions a month.
right
on Twitter analytics, right? So it's
which is phenomenal. So let's step back. You're starting this. You meet with Jason. You got all this stuff happening. At this point, are you're always incorporating science into the content, into the conversation, and is that generally the storyline at this point at the beginning when you just got beaks and you put beaks into the storyline? When do you start monetizing? At what point do you realize, you know what, I could make money here?
Right. So I've always felt that anybody that creates content should be rewarded for it. So as I started to create content, I was like, I didn't have any icky feelings about thinking about, hey, we could make a little bit of money at doing this. Not that my day job doesn't pay me enough to live off of, right? But it was I was like, hey, we could make some money off of the content. And I didn't want it to be too gross. Like we don't advertise our stuff that much. But the first thing that we monetized was Patreon. And we set up a Patreon account for my podcast. So I felt as Bunsen's account started to grow, I think he was at like 20,000 followers, maybe 15 to 20,000. I felt that there were stories and there were stories and science articles that Twitter was really limiting to get across. Like you only have so many characters, right? So I started a podcast where I would talk about science. And then because our account was relatively big compared to a lot of other scientist accounts, I was able to use that to ask them to be on our show. And I interview scientists every week on our podcast. And that's where I monetize it, because I love listening to podcasts and they always plug their Patreon. They're like, hey, this is free. If you can afford it, head over to Patreon and support us. And I support lots of different podcasts because, it's good content. And I was like, hey, we could set up a Patreon account too. And we did. And people, initially, we had a few supporters. I see Liz. Liz is there. Liz is one of our patrons. Hi, Liz.
Oh, nice.
How's it going?
Hey, Liz. So that was...
And what's really cool is a lot of the early patrons, we made I know them all by name. Wow. Because they were our first people that supported us. So that's what we monetized first. And then we ran into Sam after that. And it was like, well, I always hear people on podcasts talking about their merch. Cara Santa Maria is she's got a podcast called Talk Nerdy. And she's also on the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. They're two fairly big podcasts. I think the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is a massive podcast. And anyways, Cara, I asked her, I was like, hey, Cara, could you be on my podcast? And she said yes. And it was like our 5th episode. So I really didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, she walked me through all of it. She's like, hey, you could do all of these things to make money off of your podcast. That's what I do. And so I had a little bit of mentoring from somebody that knew more than me. Just like Joseline, you've mentored me with spaces. So thank you.
No, absolutely. And I think sharing is caring. And it was actually episode 7, Science Skepticism with Cara Santa Maria, and why did Puppy Bunsen attack a lemon? I love these additional side titles that you give to your very serious science related podcasts that are all, which is great headlining. This is all storytelling. This all goes with your brand. It's just like a combination of, fun as well as, science. And the tagline, for those people that don't know, the Bunsen and Beaker Twitter and probably brand tagline is dogs who teach science with empathy, cuteness, and fun, with the capital letter of FUN with the exclamation point. So I think that helps resonate through all your entire brand portfolio, if you will. So to kind of summarize everything for the people that just joined, so you started an account way back in 2017, October. You're about to celebrate, your anniversary pretty soon, and you're also just past your 2-year anniversary of your podcast on the 28th.
More than 100 episodes now.
and you're on season 3, and we're going to talk about the seasons thing because that's a very important thing to think about. So you started off, you were, just creating content, and then one piece of content resonated more than any other, and the picture is up there on the nest if you want to scroll through. It's the second one that's been added, which is, Bunsen had a lab coat and some safety glasses, and it resonated with not only the Twitter community but also Reddit, which you didn't understand, which is great.
I still don't understand Reddit.
So that's the point about social, is that sometimes you don't really need to understand all these things. You just leverage it accordingly. Then you created a podcast because the limitation of Twitter prevented you from really expanding what you wanted to speak about, and then you started speaking there. Then you got mentored by someone that lets you know how to monetize the podcast, and then from there you realized that there was merch, and you met up with an artist named Jason that created a whole product line.
His name's Sam.
Oh, sorry. I misspoke. I was thinking of Jason because of, that's your name.
I'll
So
share some, but Sam's right into the nest puzzling.
Oh, perfect.
He's amazing.
Perfect. So the point of all this stuff is, again, just move, just get the ball rolling, and things will essentially come into place. In regards to people coming into your life, and if you go into it from a genuine perspective, and I love the piece, which is like, look, if you're creating content, you should get a little bit of money from creating that content. Everybody here are content creators. So if you think about that, it shouldn't be sleazy. You should find what works for you and build from there. I think those are some of the primary lessons that you've highlighted in a nice organic way, if you will. Not knowing all the answers, just went ahead and did it. So that's Sam Logan there, Sam and Fuzzy, if you will. And that's phenomenal. So then you start Patreon, you have your day ones, you're establishing a relationship with them. And then how soon does the merch start coming into play?
So the merch is a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we're not like We Rate Dogs. We don't have millions and millions of followers.
Right.
So, every couple days something does sell from the merch shop.
Mm-hmm.
New designs do really well. The Vultures of Parliament design sold hundreds of things.
Wow.
I made it like one of those old. Joseline, did you ever buy a tour T-shirt where you had the tour dates on the back?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's what I did. Is I made a Vultures of Parliament tour T-shirt with their logo on the front.
Oh,
and about
man.
26 locations they were playing at, but every location is a scientific place in the world, like museums and things like that.
Oh, wow.
So people thought that was hilarious. So when we have new stuff, it sells well. Another thing we took a jump at, and it's been really popular, is our calendar. They sold out. They just sold out. So the 2022 calendar, we should have in our hands this week coming up, actually. So that's another thing we did. But the biggest thing that it was a bit of a financial risk, but it resonated really well with people, is we made a Bunsen stuffy.
All right.
So a little stuffed dog that comes with it sold out, came with a lab coat and safety glasses, and It was adorable. And that sold out. That was and we've made a beaker stuffy, and they will be on sale, I think, at the end of October, so just in time for Christmas. And the beaker stuffy is with a different company. I could get into some of the pitfalls we had with our first one. That was a bit of a thing. But this new company is doing great, and the beaker stuffy is freaking adorable. I'll see if I can find a tweet of it to share.
Yes.
But all of that merch, some of it is print on demand.
Okay.
So it's no risk to us, right? But some of it is big financial risk to us because we have to put the money up, right, and then we sell from our house through the Shopify account.
So did you start off with print on demand as a?
Yes, because we didn't have any capital, right? If anybody's thinking about making merch, print on demand is the safest way to do it, because you don't know necessarily what's going to sell. You could get like 100 t-shirts of something you think is cute, and then just your friends buy it, and you have 90 t-shirts left over.
Right. And a nice little closet of stuff. Now, is there a particular company that you recommend from the print-on-demand side?
So through our Shopify account, we have 3 print-on-demand companies. One is Printful.
Mm-hmm.
Printful is our main one. We really like them. They make premium stuff, so it's a little bit more money, but like the print quality is great, and the quality of the fabric of the shirts and hoodies and all that stuff is really high quality. Then our company that makes print-on-demand masks, like face masks, that was maybe a little bit on the nose during COVID. We paid face masks and they sold like crazy. Just the cartoons. My favorite one is the Tongue Out Tuesday mask. So a picture of Bunsen's face, but it looks like your face is his face with his tongue out. It's like it's a real picture of him.
Yeah, but you don't have one of Beaker. I was looking for Beaker's. He doesn't have one, right? I couldn't find it.
Beaker's face is too narrow, so I tried to like blow it up. It's just because Bunsen's head is a giant watermelon. It's working perfect.
All right, so
too many Chihuahua face masks, right? They're always like, giant cats, like lions or tigers or bears, right?
So, what was the company that does the masks?
They all sound the same. So the first one is Printful. This one, the one that makes the masks and the dog stuff, is Printify.
Okay.
They make dog bandanas and dog, like, I forget what they're called. They're like bandanas and collars, I guess.
Yeah, you with that plastic where you have to it like locks into place, that thing, right?
Yeah. And then the third company is called Print Bean. Actually, I forget the name of the third company. I got to figure a third thing.
Okay.
Anyways, they make our puzzles. We have Bunsen and Beaker puzzles, like of the really nice pictures I take. They got turned into puzzles. And we've heard from people that have bought them. They're really high quality. They're like something you'd get from like Toys R Us or Walmart or something like that for kids.
And they only do puzzles.
We do lots of stuff. Some of it's super weird, and I don't think we can sell it. Like rhinestone jeans. Like I don't know if anybody would want to wear a bling pair of pants with Bunsen on them. I don't think so. But
okay, yeah. So I'll find that company, and we could always share it off to the people, which I think is vital. So so then now we've have the print on demand. So if you're looking at merch, print on demand, start off there. You use Shopify because it's very easy to implement, and
yeah, it's user friendly. You bet.
It's very easy. You don't, and for those people that don't know what print on demand is, you don't hold inventory. They order directly from Printful, and they handle the procurement. You collect the money. Yep. They actually print it on demand, as the name suggests. So there's nothing created until it's ordered. So there is no kind of holding inventory or any of that stuff on anybody's side. So, which is great. Yeah. So you started the merch, and what was the first merch item that you decided to put into play?
It was a straight up t-shirt.
Okay.
A print on demand t-shirt with a cartoon Bunsen doing a titration. And the science people will probably know what that is, but yeah. And that sold really well. And we're like, we have something here. We were with a different print on demand company at that time called Teespring.
Yes, I know them.
Right. And they're great, but we wanted to sell other stuff like that Teespring didn't have. So that's why we moved to Shopify. And the great thing about Shopify is you can have those print on demand companies, but you can also put your own things you want to sell in your store. So we sell stuff from our house. We have like some special stickers that we had made by Sticker Mule.
Oh, yes, I know them.
And that's all how we sell our stuffy, the calendar. We have coasters. We have Bunsen and Beaker pens that we sell from our house.
Yes,
So
I've seen that.
Stuff
okay.
We sell from our house.
Oh, so that's phenomenal. So I love the fact that you started off t-shirts very easy. Now, where did the inspiration of, because you started talking about the text thing, where did all these things evolve from? Did you just kind of like think them up? Did someone mention it? one of your Patreon supporters? Like, where do you start coming up with the ideas for a lot of these storylines that you've been putting together?
Text from Bunsen is based on a book that I bought from my oldest son called Text from Dog.
Oh.
So we're sort of aping a bit on something that already existed, but I definitely didn't plagiarize any of the jokes or anything, right? Like I made I don't do that. Like that's
Right.
just icky and wrong, right? That's like people who steal other people's tweets. I hate that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a
or
situation.
Steal pictures of our dogs.
Oh, that must be so annoying.
All the time,
yeah.
They say it's their dog. Anyways, but yeah, so Text from Dog, and then I was like, Text from Dog is like the dog texting the guy. I was like, well, that's cool, but what about if it was a dog texting another dog? Or what if it was about our dog texting the rooster that they hate?
Yes. Yes, and I was going to ask you about the that rooster. Is that a real rooster, or did you just make it up? Because I didn't see any.
No, Buster's real. No, Buster's a real rooster. There's like, we have like 7 or 8 chickens. I don't know. I have to go check. Maybe we lost one to the owl. Anyways, so there's a rooster named Buster, and roosters, for those of you who aren't farm folk, they will do their cock-a-doodle-doo whenever they want. Like, they don't do it when the sun goes up. They'll do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, they're the worst. And they're super loud, and they think they're invincible. And Buster just flew out of the coop one day, and Beaker was out, and Beaker saw Buster and took after him and nearly murdered him. So that was a whole storyline. So now the dogs don't like the Buster. Well, Bunsen doesn't care. He's got no prey drive. He was just watching in horror. Beaker was mauling Buster, and I was trying to get her off of Buster because Beaker's a little killer. Like, she's a hunting dog. Like, golden retrievers don't like birds. They're a bird dog. They were bred for hunting. So now Beaker just goes over and stares at Buster, and then Buster stares at her, and they just hate each other.
Oh, so I laugh.
I made a Twitter account for Buster, and Buster's Twitter account is literally just the troll Beaker. And he just texts her. Every 3 days he tweets something mean at Beaker, and then she gets really upset at him. It's a whole thing.
Yes, because the second let me put it back up there. There was this little scenario that just happened that I wanted to. It's this whole. Hold on a second. Stupid Beaker, me doing Bach anything.
Yeah, the meme war. I didn't even tell people I was doing that. Only like the super fans caught that. So if you caught that, good job.
Yeah. So it was like, I go deep into these interviews. I don't take it lightly. So I was like really getting into this. Like, the reason why I knew about Buster is because when you were talking about your last video, you would actually, the pinned is not the last video. It was the pinned tweet that has the video explaining the vaccination. There is a little there's a little drawing where you were talking about the catapult type of situation to kill Buster, to make him into like chicken and bacon and all this other stuff. It's like, wait, I had to stop the video just to like read the details of like
screenshotting it and asking you what was going on.
Yeah. And then you see Beaks is going to distract Buster as Bunsen goes attacks, and it's this whole thing. It was the level of storytelling and detail required to do this is something that I think needs to be discussed, because there's a lot of energy. I could understand why you would say, look, let me get a little bit of change, because your videos are very elaborate, a lot of B-roll footage of dogs walking in the pasture, and then they're in the house, and you're putting them, the lab coat on and everything else, and you're attaching like those cones with like little, I guess it was like tonsil sticks or whatever it is, where when Beaker was infected, she was an infected cell that pushed the spike proteins. That was the COVID video we shot. Yeah. So he's like, oh my goodness. So it was now, do you create a storyline? Like, how much time do you dedicate into that, as well as, posting content on social? Like, what's the process what's the pre-production process for doing all these things? Because it sounds pretty elaborate, just like looking at the end result.
So all of this stuff is probably going to go down a little bit. I'm a classroom teacher, so I do get the summer off. I've had one of the things I wanted to try this summer was to shoot little educational videos with the dogs. My goal was to get between 6 and 8 done, like a one every week kind of thing, right? And they took a long time. Like shooting that COVID video with the dogs, I had to write a script beforehand.
Right.
And then the script was also dependent on what I knew the dogs could do. Because like they're dogs.
Right.
And they're not like a border collie that can, border collies are almost like people, but Bunsen is built like a bus, and he has giant bear paws that can't grab anything. So basically, he just sits there and looks cute. Like that's his best trick.
Right.
He can hold stuff with his mouth, and he can spin, and he can lay down, and he's very obedient. But like he's not a person. So
right.
Your script is based on these creatures that aren't people.
Right.
So that takes I'm like, hey, what if we did this? I'm like, oh, right, they don't have hands. That I can't use that in the script. And then after that, I shot the video. I shot as much of it as I could, edited it together, and then I did a voiceover using my podcast software. So it was like to make a 1 week video, I had to work on it on and off all week. Like that's the amount of work that took. So it's a bit of work. But I mean, our account is a science communication account, and for some reason, I think we all know maybe why, some of the vaccines have become politicized.
Right.
I have no idea why they would become politicized. Like,
right.
I don't think the smallpox vaccine was politicized back when
right.
the smallpox vaccine came out. And all of my scientific colleagues are getting just absolutely trashed on Twitter by anti-vax people or because it's political. But our account skirts that because they're adorable dogs.
Right.
So if some people see that and they're like, hey, I'm going to get vaccinated because the dog said to, I don't care, but they're getting vaccinated.
Right. So one of the questions that came about, which is because this brand that you've created is there's some not only engagement, but people that are taking physical actions based off of the content that you create. Has any government or science-based brands looked out or reached out for any type of partnership to kind of convey any type of pro-science message?
A couple times, yeah. In Canada, we have it's not government related. Well, it is government related. Okay, they gave a couple doctors a bit of money to start this thing called This Is Our Shot for vaccination. A famous Canadian Olympian, Hayley Wickenheiser, she's a hockey player, won gold for Team Canada. Anyway, she was like one of their spokespeople. So they approached us to shoot a vaccination video, and it was just like the dogs in their shirts for that. But little did they know, one of the songs that Vultures of Parliament has is COVID-19 vaccine. It's a song about the vaccine. And they love that, so we worked with them on that. A couple of years ago, we worked with Health Canada on getting your dogs safe for ticks, because in Eastern Canada, ticks are a problem. Aside from that, I don't think government looks as much as they should at social media for the proper people for influencing the populace. I think now since COVID is so topical, I think now they're rethinking that. They're like, we need to get more people vaccinated, and they're not listening to us and they're not listening to doctors. So maybe they'll listen to somebody on TikTok. Like, I don't know, you got to try anything, right? So
yes,
they
exactly.
might learn a lesson from that.
Yeah. And I think with the recent administration here reaching out to various, Gen Z millennials that had brands, I would suspect that this could be also like a global type of thing where officials are, again, reaching out. If there was one that you would definitely work with, is there a particular brand that if they came calling would be like your dream partnership?
Good question.
That's what I strive for. That answer.
Definitely, if Disney Marvel came knocking,
okay,
we would line up to be part of that roster. You bet.
All right. I have a friend that works there, so maybe we could work that out. So yeah, and I think that yeah. So that's good. Disney, Marvel, that type of situation. Oh, as a matter, have you been on the spaces where they do talk about various Marvel shows like the WandaVision?
I was on the WandaVision one. Yeah, I joined the WandaVision one last week. It was amazing to hear them all chat. Like, I'm gonna flub their names. Paul Bettany and Wanda herself.
The twin, Olsen twin. Yeah. Allie.
Not the twin of the Olsen twins.
Right. The other one.
Yeah. Anyways, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're heading towards. So for people that are just arriving, we're talking about essentially brand building, and in particular, how to invent a brand, and how to monetize this invented brand, and how to keep it going, and how to keep it interesting, and also neglecting that, or not neglecting the fact that it is somewhat time consuming to, well, it's not time consuming, it's an investment to create good content. So that cannot be kind of put aside, especially if you want to continue the engagement. You have to find the audience and dedicate yourself to the craft. And there's a lot of teachers along the way. So you don't have to have all the answers initially, but just make the steps, to move forward step by step, right? So I know that we have essentially another half hour. So if anybody has any questions, what I'm going to do, if you could put yourself on mute while, I don't know, I'm getting an echo for whatever reason.
Me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, thank you. So if anybody has any questions, comments, DM me. If you want to, send it privately, send out a tweet. We're going to look at the tweet, use Monetize Monday. We're talking about how to build a brand, essentially how to monetize a brand. Now, this is a completely unique perspective, because when people talk brand building, they talk about individuals, humans, things of that nature. We know that, this brand in particular was the creation of, and it's funny because he gives himself the name Dad Guy, which I thought was phenomenal. So there's Bunsen, who's a Bernese Mountain Dog. We have Beaker, who came along after Bunsen was 3 years old, and Beaker is a golden retriever, aka Beaks for the people around the way. Then Dad Guy is Jason. He also has a podcast, the Science Podcast, no pun intended there, where he talks about various science issues by various doctors and scientists. And he also infuses humor, entertainment, to develop this big brand. He has a Shopify account with various print-on-demand items, in addition to items that he has created for his audience. He started off by looking at Patreon, because Patreon is a network where you're supported by a community, by a subscription. And then from there, expanded to have some merch. He was fortunate to come in contact with a gentleman, Sam, who's at the very top there. Sam is a cartoonist, Sam Logan. And since then, he combines his work as a science teacher with with also the content creation. So he has the balance between teaching school, bringing the dogs to school, and then during the summertime have a little bit more time to create a lot more content to move forward. So again, if you have any questions or comments, please tweet them out. We have about half an hour or so to to discuss brand building. He has worked with various companies to get the word out about science and things of that nature. One thing that is vital, a fun fact, if you want to teach a Bernese Mountain Dog some tricks, they love food. Go figure. So I guess unlike other dogs that don't like food, but they like food even further. So I'm going to go through. It's funny because you addressed a lot of these questions. So now I noticed that you mentioned you started Twitter, you have Facebook, but you also have TikTok. And I went to your TikTok brand. How often are you, not only using TikTok, but are you looking into diving into that more because it's extremely popular? Or what's your thoughts about these platforms and which ones you decide to invest more time in?
Honestly, I should have been trying to figure out TikTok earlier. I literally this week did a bunch of research. I watched some videos about because there's super different rules on TikTok than there is on Twitter. Like what works on Twitter does not work on TikTok. And I posted a couple videos using my research, and they've just exploded on TikTok. Like the one video is super adorable. It's a beaker being a troll to Bunsen when she was a puppy. It has 650,000 views. And the other one, which is the story of Bunsen and Beaker, has over 300,000 views. We've gained like 12,000 Twitter followers in like 3 days.
Wow.
So like I probably should have been pushing, but I just didn't get it. Like I thought you were just supposed to do dances on TikTok.
So
not that way. I should have paid more attention to TikTok.
But here's the thing: it's you now that you found out, you could keep going. So it's not like it's end all be all, right? So you're capitalizing on it, which is phenomenal. And the other interesting thing is that even though you're on TikTok, it's affecting Twitter, right? So there's this relationship across these different platforms. So you developed your foundation here, you go there, you link up to this profile. There's going to be some synergy there. So that's also something that people need to, start thinking about, is that, okay, be committed and then look at expanding. And then as you're expanding, you can expand almost exponential or with a higher growth once something hits. Because once one of them hits, then all it takes is specifically with TikTok is just one video doing well, because people are going to go through the other videos. So this is where consistency is rewarded, right? Because if you only have that one video and it hits, right, then that's it. You lost them because you don't have other videos. But I'm sure the other videos increased, to a certain degree. So the key is consistency when creating content and experimenting with your audience. And then now that you're there, I see and it seems like that was a long time ago, the 648,000. That looks like when Beaks was a pup there.
Yeah, I just did my research, and it's like you need to have a title that like you have to watch this video. So the title was "Wait Till," it was like that robotic voice on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it was like watch to the end, or it gets better at the end, or something like that. It was like
yes,
and
it's
so people were like, oh, well, watch till the end, and it was super effective. It's a cute video too.
Yeah,
Beaker's like got a little chew, and she's prancing in front of Bunsen, and then she loses the treat, and Bunsen steals it, and it's basically what it was like.
Yeah, wait until the end; it's worth it, and it's something simple as that, which is phenomenal. So, again, I think there's these little micro lessons that all collectively make a substantial impact on your brand and how to build it. Now, as we come to some closure now, I want you to start thinking about, what do you have planned now for the future? What do you foresee? What are you working on that you could reveal that is going to take this brand higher? What's the goal of the brand in the future from your perspective?
So for me personally, I teach high school chemistry, and I've been on a couple television shows. There's a program called History Erased, and I was one of the presenters for the show called History Erased. It's like something is removed from history and what would change in our world, and it's like a thought experiment. And I was one of the presenters, and the episode was about dogs and cats. So if dogs and cats were just erased from the planet, how would life be different? Some episodes are about gold or the wheel, or like Holland, like what would happen if there were no more Dutch people, or if Holland didn't exist, right?
What?
Well, there'd be massive changes, for good or for bad, like depending on what Holland did, right? Anyways, so I was one of the presenters. So I guess I did a good job, and I can't tell anybody specifics. But there's a television show pitch with me involved.
Ooh, nice.
That will use Bunsen and Beaker, but that may go nowhere. A lot of television shows pitches, that's as far as they go. They go as far as the TV pitch, right?
Right.
So that's something that could be very big, or you may never ever hear of it.
So
I can't say more than that.
But the history erased is done, right?
We're working on the Bunsen Stuffy 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
We should have pictures of that within a couple weeks. So it's going to be, not that the Bunsen Stuffy first one wasn't great or wasn't perfect. It was really well done. But this new one I'm very excited about it.
Nice. Now the history erased is available, right? Where would someone go to watch that episode of you on it?
Right. So History Erased is on the History Channel.
Okay.
And that's a Canadian channel. And some of History Channel's big TV shows are on American TV. Like there's one that they do called Vikings, kind of popular. History Erased is like a mid-tier show. And our American fans, they had a heck of a time trying to find both a way to watch History Channel or a way to watch History Erased. You almost have to know a Canadian that can
unlock. Okay, I'm gonna see what I could do to make that happen, because I think that would be interesting. I'm curious to find out if there is no dog or cats, how the world would be. It would be very grouchy, very. What would
We'd be better. We could probably live without cats.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What would those ladies do in their house? Anyway, so that's always like the situation. Cat lady. So that's good. So do you have any, like, when you first started out, you obviously didn't know that it was grow to this magnitude, right? So outside of the TV world, where do you see your brand? Is there any, like, is it like 1 million followers? Like what are you ambitions with the brand?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to be back at my day job pretty quick in September, so I've had a lot of time in the summer to like do extra content. So for me, this is always, unless something drastically changes and Marvel comes to say, hey, we want Bunsen in the next movie or something like that.
Right.
We're going to, Thor has a dog named Bunsen the Burner or something. Anyways,
right.
My passion and what I'm really good at is I'm a teacher.
Right.
So the brand of Bunsen and Beaker will probably just smolder along. There's only one of me, right? And if you know anybody who's a teacher, it's not the easiest job.
You're right.
So unless I get cloned, being able to keep all this stuff with my podcast, because that's a weekly production. Like trying to do TikTok, which runs differently than Instagram, which runs differently than Twitter. I don't know. Maybe we'll get to the point where I can hire an assistant or something like that.
Right. And that's one of the interesting things about the creator economy. It's a common theme amongst the creators, is the ability to scale, especially around the content editing and not necessarily the creation part, but mostly on the editing piece, because that is a very time-consuming process of being able to outsource. I know that there's things like Fiverr and things like that, but a lot of times they don't understand a lot of the intricacies for a creator of doing it in a certain way and things like that. So possibly in the future, there'll be a resource that would be able to continue creating this content for you or distributing and things like that so that you don't have to lose focus educating the future scientists of the world, which I think is very.
I am excited about Spaces.
Yes.
We run Spaces every Tuesday, and I'm going to keep doing that. That's been a lot of fun. and thanks to you, thanks to your help with that. I wouldn't have got where I was without your help there.
No, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things, and I don't know if you recall, I have to check the archives of like what we met on a space and we were just having a good old time. And I think your spaces run a little late. Yes?
Well, yeah, because I wanted a time that was consistent. And if it's too early, I don't get home from work, right? Like, I'm a teacher. And some days I don't get home till 6, right? Like I'm gone all day. And so I need time for supper. And I was like, 7 o'clock works for me.
Right.
But 7 o'clock for me in the middle of Canada, for you on the East Coast is 9 o'clock at night. So.
Right. Yeah. So that's where my dilemma stands. And
yeah, anybody who can make it kind of thing.
But I think it's all about the momentum. So would you describe it like a podcast light type of situation where it's not as in depth as a podcast, your spaces theme or format?
Yeah, and what I think is really cool is I'm going back through the scientists that have been on my podcast and bringing them back, and we do a really quick mini intro, like 15 minutes. But what's really rewarding is people ask them questions, right? They've made, a lot of people don't, like we have close to 100,000 followers, and I wish all of them listen to my podcast, but they don't.
Right.
So people have never heard this scientist speak before. And also I've been branching out into art. So there's theme in art and also in the dog community. So it's not always a scientist every Tuesday. Last week we talked to the dog mom of the British Bull Terrier, the Walter meme. It's like the British Bull Terrier that's looking weird at the camera.
Yeah.
He's on Twitter, and we talked to his mom. And then we had a Canadian kind of like superstar guy named Brittlestar. He was on Spaces, and he has nothing to do with science, but he was part of the art community. So it's in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I think the art is a big part of science. So we want to have that in the spaces.
Yeah, and have you looked into NFTs at all?
I don't even understand those. There's like half of the spaces on Twitter are NFTs. And basically NFT for me stands for no effing time for that. Like I have no idea.
So to put it simply, as simply as possible, non-fungible token, basically what it allows you to do, unlike the past where, and this is something that actually Jay-Z talked about when he was on a Twitter space with Jack a while back ago. He was like, okay, imagine a Bunsen and Beaker animation, right? And you have your friend Sam that would go ahead and create something, right? So he sells it to you, and then you sell it to someone else. So say he sells it for you. We'll keep the numbers very, very basic. Say he sells it for you for 100, you sell it for 1,000, someone else sells it for 1,000,000, right? So Sam doesn't get the million, right? He get nothing from that transaction, even though he was the creator of it. So with NFT, you put into the contract, for lack of a better term, that you're going to get revenue in perpetuity of that product being sold, right? So he'll forever get paid from that piece of content. So this is what's very good about using an NFT for art, is because then you could ensure that the artist gets compensated for the life of that particular art, right? So and it's I'm not going to go into the intricacies of that. This is as high level as I could possibly make it, so that it is clear to understand. And yes, it does require some sort of investment in time to comprehend and put certain things in blockchains, blah blah blah. But just like the time that you invested on Twitter, now on TikTok and all these other things, it's just carving out some time to get that level of expertise to get you that what you need moving forward, because that could be, again, something that could provide a great revenue opportunity for you and also for the cartoonists that you work with in the future. So that's probably a conversation that you might want to have with him, because that could impact the brand, you know. So yeah, something to think about when we're talking about like monetization and things of that nature. So we have 15 minutes or so. I want to respect your time before you have to depart us and work on some science-y. I'm an engineer, so I fully appreciate the scientists and the sciences and a lot of the stuff that you do. I'm also, I also appreciate the puns and things of that nature that you often, relay to your audience. I particularly like your last pun, and I'm going to leave it to just before you leave, because I think it's good for people to get a listen to your podcast, because it's very well formatted. It has a nice flow to it. Even the first episode, where it wasn't an episode, it was like leading up to the first episode, had you already set the tone to it, which I thought was phenomenal.
You went back that far?
Yeah, I do archive work. I went back
crazy.
to
Those first episodes were not well done.
yeah, but you set the tone, because I remember it was June 28th, 2019 was the teaser. And then you had the next day, at least that's when it was uploaded. Dragonfly, Woo, Wow, and Where Bunsen Got His Name. So
yeah,
yes, good stuff indeed. So as I mentioned, we have a few more minutes before my friend departs us to do some science-related things or whatever. So if you have any questions, comments, please jump on to this recorded Twitter Spaces. If you want to send a direct message, send that to me as well. And if you wanted to tweet some stuff, you could also do that as well. So as we go to wrap up, where would you most like support? Where would you like people to go ahead and follow you or engage with you? Is it your podcast, Patreon? Where would you want people to go and connect with you and the brand?
What we always tell people is follow us on Twitter. Twitter is our main account.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the podcast if it's for you and it's something you like and you're going to listen to every week or every couple weeks. Think about joining the Patreon page, and there's different tiers of support. I think the lowest tier is $5 a month, which is, we think, pretty fair for people that like our content and listen to the podcast. And you can, of course, check out the Bunsen and Beaker merch store. There's literally everything there. Like,
oh yeah,
I work pretty hard on having a huge variety of different types of clothes, and there's adorable designs. And I always say I don't expect people to buy anything from the store. If you see something and it speaks to you, it's going to be like the same thing as if you're in the shopping mall and you see something and you want to buy it, right? The shopping mall's not telling you there to shop and buy stuff, and neither will we. But if you like it, then go ahead, pick it up.
Yes, I also want to say, or I would be remiss if I didn't talk about I am here also. Could you go and explain what that particular saying means for those people that don't know the brand?
So yeah, real quick, if you're just going to follow Bunsen and Beaker today, the two dogs, Bunsen tweets with normal punctuation, because Beaker's the golden retriever and she's really has lots of energy. She always tweets in all caps. And when she was little, I would try to video Bunsen. She wasn't trained yet, and she would shove her way into every shot. But she didn't know what was going on, and she wanted to be there. So the saying that we came up with was she's like, I am here also. I am here also. And people, it resonated with people because they're maybe a middle child, and they felt that they were always trying to be there also. So we made that's her thing now. And then people play off of it. So they'll say I am here also, or if there's something happening in pop culture, they'll be like, Rihanna is here also. So they're now using that catchphrase other places, which is super cute. And we have a T-shirt that's just a giant I am here also.
Yes. I love those subsections. I also love the face mask nap. And for you chemistry geeks out there, NAP is an acronym from sodium and phosphorus. using the chemical elements there, which I thought was pretty fantastic. Although, I couldn't find more chemical element type puns. Are there more? I wasn't able to find.
There should be. I'm going to work on having that as just a category. That takes, selfishly, that takes a lot of work on Photoshop to get that to look perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm my own graphic designer, and I'm very bad.
So okay.
It takes me a long time.
Then you have Hockey Moose and Goose versus the Bear and Golden Wolf.
Yeah.
Could you explain what that is?
We've had run-ins with all of those Canadian animals. So Bunsen and Beaker are playing hockey against them in one of the cartoons.
So again, I really love the attention to detail and the story building that you've been able to infuse into the brand, which is extremely unique, which is extremely essential. I was just on another Twitter Spaces earlier today about storytelling, which you were on with Bobby. And, I think, and I know for sure that the more detailed your story is, the culture, the community that you create is going to be so much stronger, right? It's not about the merch. It's not about anything else. It's really about fostering this community together, which I think is extremely important. For anyone that's looking into building a brand, I would highly recommend really looking into the story, looking into your story. If it's your own personal brand, the story of your brand, whatever that might be, it's so essential, and as we go to wind down, I'm just going to play an episode, which I think is a very cool one, of the Science Podcast. For those people that arrived early, you are actually gonna you got a taste of it. But for those people that are here now, I just want to hear this, which is a great format, by the way, for a podcast. But let's listen to this right before my friend takes off or has to go.
Hello, science enthusiasts. I'm your host, Jason Sikowski. I'm a high school chemistry teacher, but you probably know our dogs, Bunsen and Beaker. They're the science dogs on social media. This show takes what's best from their account, the curiosity and fun found there, and swirls it into podcast form. Every week, we're going to take some deep dive into an area of science and look at the research that's going on with our pets. We'll also have an expert guest who will enthrall you with their area of knowledge. This is the Science Podcast. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Science Podcast. Thanks for tuning in week after week to listen to this goofy show. We're back from holidays. It's great to be home in our own beds, and the dogs are pretty happy to be home too. But having some time away in a different part of the world where we can bring the dogs is just magical. The west coast of Canada is gorgeous, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more in the family section. This week on the podcast in Science News, we're going to talk about some lasers that are trying to make fusion happen. What? In pet science, we're going to talk about that contentious Twitter post about cats be murdering. Our guest and Ask the Expert is Beth Fitzpatrick, who's a senior environmental consultant. And her chat about things that she's had to work with in the environment is really interesting. So I can't wait to share that interview with you. Okay, dogs, this joke is a little bit specific. Every time I see it, it makes me laugh. Which is more environmentally friendly, Facebook or our jokes on Reddit? Well, Facebook produces too much plastics, while r/jokes has 100% recycling rate. Okay.
I love it. So as we go to close the show, any last words that you wanted to convey to our faithful listeners here on Monetize Monday?
I guess our brand tagline is science, empathy, and cuteness. And our account does all three, but I think the world needs the middle one the most right now, which is empathy. So that's the big thing with our account. Try to be kind to each other. Try to put yourself in other people's shoes. And we're a science communication account, so please get vaccinated.
Perfect. And look at that last tweet that's pinned to the nest. It's a very good one. And yeah, so what else? And for those people that don't know, it's Bunsen Burner. So does Beaker have his own account, her own account?
No, it's a split account.
Okay.
Yeah, the username is kind of locked in, and because Bunsen is a Bernese Mountain Dog, the short for Bernese Mountain Dog is Burner. So he's a Bunsen Burner.
Perfect. And have you scheduled the tweet yet for tomorrow?
The Spaces is, I believe 4 or 5 days ago, I tweeted out that we do have Spaces tomorrow. I can find it, I think.
I just want to be able to.
Yeah, if I search, I don't know if it's the reminder one, but it's the ad for the space tomorrow. Let's see here. I don't know if Austin retweeted it.
And
it's about hummingbirds. We're having a hummingbird scientist expert.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I would love for people to set a reminder for it, because I think it'll be pretty cool.
I went crazy tweeting, so it might take a second to find it. Anyways, yeah. Oh, here we go. I found it.
Okay, great.
It's not the reminder one. This is just the ad. I have to figure out how you can do. No, it is. No, you can set a reminder from this one.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so right there. So we're calling our Spaces Unleashed.
Perfect.
It's fun.
And oh yes, we talked about that before. Do you have a hashtag? You have a hashtag, right, for it?
Yeah. Hashtag Spaces Unleashed for that. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just waiting for it to update on my side. I don't see it yet.
Okay, I put it in the nest. I don't know how long that takes.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but let's just give it a go. But yeah, so I thank you very much for joining me and the monetized moguls, as I want to call them, and the people that are listening in. I think there was a lot of valuable lessons here that just the history of your brand, how it's evolved, how you're so down to earth, you're so committed to the community, committed to the science, committed to the authenticity of the dogs, and how much they have shaped communication, and you're just a genuine, good, down to earth person, which I love, and I wish you all the best success. I'm gonna obviously be promoting you as much as I can, because I think it's valuable to get this message out to the world, what you're looking to do. And yeah, I'm gonna bookmark this stuff here. So for those people that are interested, set a bookmark, set a reminder for the space, and it's again 7MT, which is 9ET. So just note that that's a thing. And if you're open to doing, and do you record them?
We do, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And that is a little special thing our patrons get.
Oh.
So we've been able to give them, because not everybody can make that time, and our patrons get that recorded. And I edited a little bit real quick, so it's an extra little bit our patrons get is every week they get the spaces as a bit of extra content.
So that is something that people need to hear, because we quickly went by that. So basically, you provide your Twitter spaces for free, you record it, and that recording then becomes something that you monetize.
Yes.
So phenomenal idea for anyone that's out there that's looking into this. And as ticketed spaces are going to be rolled out, is that something that you feel that you're going to make ticketed in the future?
There are two things that Twitter's doing, and I've decided to do neither.
Okay.
And I don't begrudge any creator to do either of them. One is we were asked to take part in super followers, and I declined. I didn't think that would be good I didn't feel it was a good fit for our brand, and we will just direct people to our Patreon more. And I will not for right now, be doing ticketed spaces. I will be rewarding our patrons with the recording as a way to monetize it. But I do not begrudge anybody who decides to go a different path, because like you're doing this, like Joseline, you're doing this for free right now on Twitter. We're all doing this, listening to you for free, getting this great content. But if you had ticketed this, I don't begrudge anybody for doing that.
Yeah, because what I'm looking at doing is having this ticketed, but almost like the opposite of what you're doing with Patreon, which is you can listen it to for free on Habs, YouTube, Facebook, even Twitter, Periscope. But because I'm sharing content within the space, you get access to that content that I share in the space. That's probably going to be a little bit more substantial. Yeah. So that's how I'm looking at it myself, because just that's like, because just like you were talking about, oh, I use these print on demand services, I could establish a deal with them and get a highly discounted, package for people that sign up using the link that's only available when you're in the ticketed space. So you're going to get the money back in some form or fashion, right? You're going to get more value back than whatever I decide to, charge to get in. So that's kind of like the gist of it. So that's genius. I pay to come to this. So yeah. No, absolutely. And we're 1 minute over. I want to respect your time. Thank you very much. You've been phenomenal. Please go ahead and follow not just this brand, but just follow all the different things that has been enrolled by all your creative genius, which is phenomenal, So dad guy, Jason, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll stay connected here on the spaces indeed. So have a fantastic day, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me a platform.
Absolutely. Indeed. So
okay, bye-bye.
See you later. And we're going to keep this going for the next half hour. So if people have any questions, comments, please feel free to either DM me, or if you would like to, jump on the mic, have any questions or comments of what we just learned. There was a lot of great nuggets that were shared throughout our conversation of how he got started, how he proceeded, how he incorporated Patreon, how graphic design was so essential, how he didn't understand these social platforms, but yet he was able to leverage them, in particular Twitter, and how he grew that network. So there was a lot of great things that were shared that I think were very valuable for anyone that's interested in, establishing their brand moving forward. So again, if you have any questions, comments, just let me know. Send me a DM and join the mic. If not, we could end this one particular Monetize Monday a little early for you, because I know there's been a lot to digest in our conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my DMs. Nothing there. The other thing that, as you know, that I like to do is I like to actually, hold on a second. Okay. Okay, Sahad is joining us today. Yeah, so as he comes up.
Hey, Rosalie, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on? Long time no see, my friend. How's it going?
Yeah, just been busy with work and life, and just not being on spaces I haven't been regularly be on spaces. I don't find time, but good to see you doing your thing. And it was a good episode. It was an interesting concept with the pets or the dogs, and having that concept around that. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you very much for joining. Again, this is recorded. It's being recorded, so you have that there. I thought it was fascinating because it was the atypical approach to branding or developing a brand. So it's good to see sometimes the way to monetize from a different perspective. You know what I mean? I think it's important. And yeah, so thanks. So was there anything in particular that stood out in your mind, Sahad, regarding the way Bunsen and Beaker's brand had evolved?
I think that they've got their own personalities, and that's being shared online. So I think that's pretty interesting. It's it's not like, oh, they've taken, usually or sometimes in other places I've seen that there's a brand potentially, or like maybe a cartoon or a character based off a real thing, like person or animal or whatever it may be, but it's not them real, but this is like their real life sort of thing, and stories or branding or marketing or stories related to them. I think that's and then actual real life events or their personalities. I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah, it was very fascinating. It's also very fascinating how he connected with the graphic designer and things just started flowing. I think that's once you get the momentum going, things just happen. And he did mention that there was some shortcomings regarding some service providers and things like that you have to make adjustments for, but it's all part of the process as an entrepreneur, which we all are as content creators. We have to look at ourselves as what we're creating as something that should be monetized in some form or fashion. I think that was very vital, which is very fascinating. George, thanks for joining. Welcome to the discussion. I think
Thank
you
you.
had mentioned, how to monetize spaces was one of your questions. Was that? Could you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for doing this. I love that guy, Jason. He's so fantastic.
I know.
We helped him out a little bit on Madeline Sklar's thing with his profile, and he's wonderful. But you dangled some bait that I want to take, which is I'd love you to explain a little more. It went by very fast. What you're planning to do with spaces, how you're planning to monetize it, what you're planning to charge for. It just went by way too fast.
Oh yeah. So essentially, I was gonna keep Monetize Monday free, but when I had the discussion and brought it up, a lot of the people in the space said, "Well, you should probably look into monetize. You've invested a lot into it." So I'm like, "Okay, cool. So how could I make it different?" So what I'm looking at doing is creating a ticketed space because I obviously want to test it out. It should have come out last week. So I'm speculating that it's going to come out sometime this week, if not today. Let me just quickly check to see if there's a new version of Twitter. They have been releasing apps much faster, I've noticed.
Yes.
So not just the Twitter app, but just all the apps in general.
Those guys are really on it. I got to take my hat off to them.
Yeah, so
they are really on it.
They're really focusing on making sure that this is a great opportunity for them, because I think this is something that's very paramount. So anyway, so realizing
a short form essay kind of thing too. They're really rolling.
Yeah, so they're doing a lot of different things. So I figured, hey, what is the value proposition of a Twitter space, which is the links, right? The links that are shared. So if I distribute the content for free on using Haps, that's distributed on Haps, that's distributed on now Reddit. I know some people are doing that. I know people are, and I use Twitter, the Periscope, and then the link to Twitter, as well as Facebook and YouTube. I could still deliver all that stuff for free, but the value is this pinned section, right? Being able to reward everyone that's joined by giving you exclusive discount and content that's only available during the space. Now,
gotcha.
Now, one thing that I could do, and what I'm planning on doing, is just having an account that no one knows that I could tweet out that would have all the information that I pinned to the nest versus it coming from my account. So I already have an account that specifically will provide these types of things. So, and I could also delete the tweet afterwards. So I just want to create a much more, exclusive experience if you're in this space. And then you can listen to all the rest of the content. I'm not going to try to penalize you per se.
I would suggest that you also put up some content, some templates for various things. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff in your head, and you've written, and there's outlines, frameworks for doing things, how-tos, recipes. There's a lot of people would be happy to pay for that.
Yes, and like the avatar worksheet that I've been providing, stuff like that. Yeah, so I have a whole, not only that, but similar to how Jason was talking about Patreon, I'm looking at and building a actual community outside of spaces. And why this becomes important, not just for me, let's just take myself out of the picture, right? So this whole Monetize Monday came about because there was discussion about a tip jar. And I'm like, oh, why don't we prepare for that? And the reason why I want to prepare for that is because that was coming on the heels of all these creators getting usurped. They're getting, superseded by celebrities on this platform called OnlyFans, right? And it's not just the adult content, just like the regular content, right? So these, creators that didn't have that big of a following were their money essentially was taken away by these celebrities that joined that same platform, right? So I'm like, okay, we got to develop a way to become independent of a platform, right? We're on this platform, which is all well and good. The next step is to create a newsletter, a direct connection to our audience, right? Because what happens if, and I know a lot of you content creators have faced this that have been using Twitter Spaces, you have a great Twitter space or whatever the case might be, and then something technically happens and poof, it ends, right? It crashes for whatever reason. I'm not blaming Twitter. It's just technology. That's the way it is. So what happened to all the people that subscribed or that just stumbled upon the space? How do we get them back? We can't unless we have a way to, convert them into, a contact of some sort, right? So I want to develop a system that allows you to create and grow your following regardless of social network. Because I think that, all these places that we're using, there's this free, like, what do they call it? It's a rent free. It's all rented space. They could shut down our account at any point in time, and then what? Then we're kind of like ground zero. So I want to develop an environment where we have a system and we talk as creators on making sure that our community stays connected with us, regardless of social platform. Yeah, so that's being built. That's being built right now. And what I'm doing specifically, just to be completely transparent, is that I am looking for founders. These founders, and I think you've already mentioned this, George, in the DM, are going to help build it. It's going to be the first 30 to 50 people are going to be the founders. And those people are going to help build it because those are the people that are going to set the tone for that environment. So when you're creating a community, I would highly recommend doing the same exact thing because you just don't want to invite everybody in at first because there's going to be some people that bad attitudes or whatever this case might be. They might sound good at first and then they go left, on every Tuesday and you don't know that. So, because you always talk on Wednesday and Monday, whatever. So that's what I'm being very slow and cautious about this because I want to make sure that it represents what I want to represent, which is just like Bunsen and Beaker and the brand. Right? Like if you listen, his tagline is dogs who teach science with empathy, cuteness, and fun. I want to have a community that's like that, where we're all empathetic, we're all growing together, but we're getting the best content. I'm talking and I'm interviewing people that are the founders of these organizations. So you're going to get exclusive content directly from the top. So if you're going to go to TikTok, we're going to talk to the top creators on TikTok so you know how to best use TikTok.
Now, will you be able to create your own community within this community?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm building that now, but this is going to be a technologically agnostic community, right? So that you're learning, you just come in here and you connect, blah, blah, blah. And then when you go to Twitter, we have this community. And I'm not disparaging any Facebook, Instagram. I'm not disparaging any of them. I think they're great. However, we can't put all our eggs in these technological baskets because it's a liability for a creator. Right? We got to build for the long term, especially if you want to make this a sustainable income or business. You can't rely on free tech to do that and then complain about this tech when it doesn't work. You didn't put any money in, you just put all the time in, which is great. And our time is extremely valuable, but we need to start thinking like business people, entrepreneurs, founders our own brand, and take this seriously. And these are the people that I want to be founders of, the monetized movement.
Very, very exciting. And I think you're really on the right track. I want to build a community around mind skills too.
Yeah, exactly.
People who are trying to improve their thinking skills. So it's just a perfect fit.
Exactly. Everybody should have a community and be, cultivating an audience because that's going to allow you, once you have this cultivated audience, you can come back here to Twitter and have the super fans. Right. But it's hard to get to the super fan type of kind of mentality strictly on Twitter unless you're a very kind of vibrant type of person and unless you've already got that kind of ball rolling. And for most, it's a very hard thing to do just with tweets. right? This audio space that we're in right now, that's the shortcut. This is, I can listen to you, George. I know when you're pausing, and I know you don't. I know what you represent. Like if you the likelihood of me knowing about you putting all that research and not liking the mics on just tweets alone, it probably would have never. It would have been very low, the percentage of me getting to that point. I probably would have just like cut you off. Oh, this guy's annoying. He's always talking about the same thing. But when I hear you, right, and I see you contributing, it's a whole depth of our relationship that cannot be tweeted out per se, right?
Right. Tweets can be faked and can be phony to a certain degree, but it's really hard to be phony in a space.
Right.
People get you right away if you're really there to bullshit and to sell stuff and
yes,
self-aggrandize and all that stuff. It's real clear.
Right. I'll let you have one pass. There's no cursing on my spaces because it's family friendly show. So just want to let you know. Yes, you did. But that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. No, it's okay. But I just want to give some shout outs to Louise, Dr. Sherry, Sahad, J Rod, Mike. I love the fact that you're using your name and your Twitter handle. Christopher. This is the shout out portion of the show because we're slowly ending. Cherise, Brent. Shout out to him. Kevin, Stephen. Appreciate you joining. Jade's son in the house, thank you very much. Protech, I think that's the way you pronounce your name. Thank you for joining. I appreciate all the tweets and everything else. Philip J. Madison, I think that's how you pronounce your name. Thank you very much. Divine Oracle, Maria Bella 912, thank you very much for being here. Vishal, I think that's how you pronounce your name. Thank you for joining. ET 2010, thank you for being here. Nikki, I am Nikki1, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. Mama Love Drama, thank you for coming. And HC, thank you for being here. I really appreciate everyone that stayed to the very end. Those are really something that I truly appreciate. I know this is a relatively long show for me. I'm an introvert, so this is extremely kind of draining in a good, positive way. But I do appreciate everyone that has come in and participated, either directly or indirectly. I do appreciate every single one of you that has joined. And stay tuned. There's a lot of things that are going to be being released, not just from myself, but also from Twitter. There are some great things. As I mentioned, we should expect a new version of Twitter. Generally speaking, it's around this time. So if I can't say fairly confident, but I have good vibes about it being released sometime today, tomorrow morning, or early. So what else is happening? I think that we've covered a lot. There's a lot to digest. There's about 10 minutes more, but I definitely know that there's a lot of things that are happening. So let me just quickly look at what is happening right now, so that I could at least make a recommendation for another space that everyone could go if they're interested in going. This is something that I started to do, is essentially acknowledging other creators out there, which I think is very valuable, supporting each other. So there's a space now called Securing the Bag. And this is a host, Miss Manuel. So we could give her a shout out. Let's see if it's tweeted. If it's tweeted, then I'm going to, here we go. There we go. So let Theodora know that I sent you there. So that's a conversation about how to generate revenue. So I think that would be a good transition for those people that are interested in that. So yeah, so I don't see anything else on there. Yeah, so I think if there is nothing else, we're going to end this space. Like I said, I really appreciate everybody showing up, participating, staying the long haul. You guys are all phenomenal creators, and this is why I wanted to acknowledge you all individually. You all create in your own special way. And if you want me to promote something, just send me a DM. We could promote it now. I think, Louise, you do a lot of stuff you do some great virtual tours. I want to find out when you have your next virtual tour. Definitely want to support you there. She's very heavy on the haps, and I always see her replays. So if you have tweeted your next haps show, definitely want to share that out. George, do you have any spaces that you have lined up?
Not at the moment, but very shortly, starting a whole bunch of them. I've been really, I'm putting up the Mind Skills Playbook as a live book. It's been up as a Rome book, but Rome is too esoteric for people to use. So
Yes,
putting it up on Obsidian so normal people can click on the links. Should be up in a week, within the week, at least the first few pages. It's going to be a live book. You're going to watch me write it and participate in the writing of it. Thanks.
Perfect. I'll be super excited to participate, support you on that.
Thank you.
Because look, we're not competitors. No one's competing against anything. We're all supporting each other. I think we could all do it. Even if I had the same thing, we're gonna come at it from a different perspective and a different angle. So I think that
cooperation, not competition.
Exactly. So I haven't seen you in a while. Do you have any Twitter spaces lined up?
Not at the moment. I like joining creators and participating through either a speaker or listening at the moment. Let the other creators and host, the regular host, do their thing. Like to participate and create ideas through that way at the moment.
Perfect. So I want to give a shout out to Brent. Brent has a space that's tomorrow. Looking for a co-host and a special guest, and it's all about sports in Canada, it looks like. So I have some ideas for him for that. So if you're interested in sports in Canada, definitely tune in. Tanya, let me know if you have a space that you have lined up. Michael, let me know if you do. J-Rod, what's happening? I don't know if you have any spaces lined up, my friend. If you want to do some collabo work, let me know, DM me. Christopher, you're doing some great stuff. Have you hosted any spaces? Let me know. So Tanya, join. Let me add you as a speaker, and let me go through the timeline just to see if you have anything scheduled. NFT, when is this happening? So this is that. Oh, that was 3 days ago. Then what do you have here? LGBT, blah, 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 blah. August 16th. Oh, that was it. Okay. Tanya, welcome to the show.
DM this to you. On Wednesday, I do with my co-host, Janine, we do Twitter Spaces for a Cause where we feature nonprofits. So if you have any nonprofit that, you want to promote or you feel passionate about, please have them reach out to us. This is something that we do and that we enjoy. I'm trying to get caught up right now. I've done too many Twitter Spaces that I'm just literally I need to. So what I'm doing is I'm making the audio file for the podcast, but I have Final Cut. So I'm taking because what I do is I screen record with Zoom. So Zoom gives you the whole screen record. And now that I figure out how to make it fit only the actual Twitter Space, I'm making YouTube videos. I'm live streaming all of them. So
wow.
LinkedIn, Facebook group, Twitch, all of them. If we're gonna make content and you're gonna distribute it, might as well do it all,
Exactly.
So that's what you just read out. That's what I've been doing. I've been recreating, taking the old Twitter Spaces, adding all the promo videos that I made to go with them, and then the end video, and then I put them all together, and then it's going out. It's going out through Restream, and then I'm just restreaming it as a live replay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It was wild because a lot of what initially was part of social media, which is this ability to multi-share or to share to multiple platforms, is coming back, because there was actually this concept or this tool called Friend Feed that allowed you to just get this feed from your friends from all social networks. I remember that, and we're kind of going back to that sort of sentiment. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I appreciate you sharing that. So if there's nothing else, I definitely want to in the space. We have 5 minutes or so. So
I have a question.
yes, sir.
When one of the reasons I haven't been on Spaces the last few weeks is I've seen a lot less spaces being shown to me
Interesting.
in this, for whatever this thing is called now. No longer the fleet bar, but whatever.
Spaces bar.
Yeah, sure, Spaces bar. So I only see like one or two every time I come on, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Are you on Android or iOS?
Yeah, Android, but in the last 2 weeks, like I said, since the last few weeks, since the fleet bar died, I just don't see that many live spaces going on. Have you noticed that less people are using spaces, or what's the deal? And Android still doesn't have the space search.
Tab.
You can't search for spaces.
Well, you could search the conventional way using the filter : spaces as a search app amperand or search term. But there is no tab on Android as of yet. I'm not sure why there's a decrease in the spaces discovery in the spaces bar for you in particular. There is another tool that's being created by one of our own, Jan. I'm going to bring that up for those people that aren't aware of that. She tapped into the API, application programming interface, and let me send it off to you. Here we go. So if you go to this tweet here, it's called spaces search.hero.cuapp.com. So if you go there, click on that link, you could go ahead and do a keyword search for spaces. So there now that the API has been built, there's going to be people that are going to create some innovative stuff. I'm working with my developer to do some stuff. There are looking at ways to add schedule spaces onto your calendar, which I think would be nice. It's technically possible to set up a notification when someone starts a space, which I think is great. So if I wanted to see the spaces that you create in real time and get a notification, there is an ability to do that. It has to be programmed in, but there is that capability because the API releases the data. So there's certain things like that I think are going to be fascinating. It's still early days. I really don't know why your spaces bar doesn't have the amount of spaces that you would like. I have noticed a decline somewhat in the, I think it's not on spaces in general, but it's on maybe the subject matter. I haven't seen that broad of a diverse set of topics personally. Right now, when I look at my spaces bar, it is filled. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's not too uncommon for me to see in my feed. So yeah, I'm not sure. One thing that I would,
the network, maybe I need to follow more people or something.
I think that's generally the case because a lot of the spaces that are listed are in a different language because I engage or interact with people from all over the world. So that helps in the process of discovery because that extends the time frame to just Eastern to a global time frame depending on where my network is. So I think that's vital. The other thing that you could potentially do.
What about the topics? You said that in recent weeks or months, the type of conversations are like less diverse.
I don't know if they're. I don't know if it's less diverse. It's more about the way they write the title of their space. So, for example, we got Monetized Monday. Okay, we got Monday Distress. I'm just going through the tab now. Cold World is your friend's is a friend's myth. I don't even know what that is. Then we have Carl one race, the human race. Okay, no voice changing, fix the country, gain with UG man, make a new friend, the Holy Spirit, toxicity, books that I have left in lasting impact, someone's name, a bunch of names. Bored at work, entertain me. So they're not the traditional subject topics for. I look for educational type stuff. This is just me. Um, but the names aren't necessarily something that would attract me. You would have to go in, and also you have to consider that the subject matter changes depending on the conversation. So right now, this is tagged Monetize Monday, right? But we're not talking about Monetize Monday anymore. So a lot of that happens where things just fluctuate. So even searching for certain things might be a little bit of a challenge because we change the subject matter as fluid as the conversation that we're having. So
yeah, because before that wasn't the case, right? Like a few months back, where the name of the conversation, the title of the conversation wasn't showing on the space bar, so
correct.
It was the host name
Perfect.
was showed.
Correct.
Used to show, so you had to join, and then the conversation could be whatever
Anything.
it was,
Right.
and you would then have to figure it out whether you want to stay or go, or you like it or it changes, and it's organic. Now I think it's got these weird titles, which I started noticing a few weeks ago, and then now it may probably even throw people off not to join, right?
Right. Because it's like, yeah, and then you won't know until you enter the same way. But now there's a little bit more hesitancy because there is a title that is like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that. So yeah, so it's very interesting, it's fascinating. But what we can do is on Friday, I still do bugging out with Quinn, the developer at Twitter Spaces, so that maybe we could take a look at a potential bug within your account. But I think the best course of action is to follow a Twitter list. That's dependent on someone sending out a tweet or right of their space. So the people like Twitter Spaces hosts, or just follow some people that you feel will have some spaces that you would be interested in. Right. Discovery is still something that needs to be worked on. That's the Achilles heel at this point in time. So yeah. So without any further ado, it's 5:00. George, did you have something to say?
No, just saying yep.
So thank you very much, everybody that's been here. I really appreciate it. This is great for me. I love this. I love everybody here staying to the very end. I am taking screenshots because who knows, you might have a future NFT or prize in the future. I tend to reward people for doing some things. So no guarantees, but a possibility. That's my DNA. So have a fantastic day. If you want some spaces to go to, scroll through. There is a space about podcasting. There's a space about co-hosting or about Canada sports up there. There's a space about monetizing your brand. There's Beakers, Bunsen and Beakers space tomorrow. So there's a lot of options that you could use to transition from here. So without any further ado, my friends, thank you very much for participating and joining. I look forward to future conversations, future guests that are coming up. And stay tuned for two things for me. One is if there's a new version of the iOS version of Twitter, I'm going to be doing a special space about that, uncovering all the new features and functions. And Fridays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, I have a space called Bugging Out that's specifically there to solve any type of bugs that you might have with your Twitter Spaces account. So, with that being said, have a fantastic day and we will talk soon. Ciao for now. Thanks a lot.
Bye.